Hey everybody, welcome to Culture Doom. This is episode 420. I'm one of your hosts. My name is Brendan.
Hi, I'm your other host. My name is Alex. How are you ladies doing this evening?
Oh, you're only talking to ladies. I thought you were going to ask me how I was doing. But no.
Well, I'll talk to you too.
No, it's fine.
Yeah. How are you doing tonight, Brendan? You're looking very svelte tonight. Did you trim your beard and possibly lose weight?
I don't know really about the weight thing, but I definitely trimmed my beard. The only thing that I've changed about
keep it up.
The only thing that I've changed is I've the last 2 or 3 weeks I don't drink during the week unless there's a special occasion that I need to drink during. Yes.
I heard that though.
But no, I was just trying to be a little bit more responsible. I'm getting old. The mornings are harder after a night of drinking. Thinking that I'm not, it's like being 25 or 30. Going to work hungover is easier and less embarrassing than being 40 and going to work hungover.
I think also, depending upon the type of employment that you have, it also is a major factor as to how much can I be inebriated and still go into work.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little different for you. I think that your coworkers would be like, I think Alex has a problem.
Does that mean I don't have to work here anymore? Please say yes.
But yeah, so how's your week been going, Alex?
I'm happy that Nicholas is going. He's starting kindergarten tomorrow. This is a Wednesday.
Wow.
He's starting it on Thursday. Yeah, it's a half day though, and he's done by like quarter to noon.
I feel extremely old now.
Yes.
Thank you.
And he's well aware of the fact that he has to wear a uniform now every day to school. No more Ninja Turtles. No more no more Paw Patrol to class.
Well, I'm glad that he's
the same thing every day.
He gets to be in it. You have to show him pictures of you in your high school uniform so he knows what's to come in the future.
Poor child. No, I don't want to scar him.
I'm bringing my yearbook next time I visit. Being like,
it's the same yearbook I have.
Well, I don't know if you're not going to show it to him, then I'll do it.
He'll see it one day.
He'll see it when he's old enough.
When he's mature.
When he's old
After
enough.
He's watched Predator and Terminator 2. And he's an adult.
Well,
but he starts it tomorrow, so we're just happy that he'll be, instead of us having to drive back and forth with daycare for him, which is further than his brother's daycare. He'll just be like 4 or 5 blocks away.
I thought he was at the school. He's not at the school?
They didn't have a summer program this year.
Got it.
So he's been bouncing around a couple different. I think he's been like 3 different daycares.
Gotcha.
This summer because of scheduling and stuff. So yeah, he starts that up. I'm very happy. I'm very proud. He got new shoes. He's got the polo shirt. He gets to take his actual lunch to school now.
What kind of lunchbox does he have?
Oh, Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, of course. How could I not predict that?
He also it matches his Spider-Man backpack. But then we also have a Paw Patrol backpack that's in his brother's closet still with the price tag on and stuff. So his brother might get Paw Patrol whenever he starts going to school, and he'll have his own little backpack.
What if he doesn't like Paw Patrol?
He likes Paw Patrol.
What if he doesn't? No, but what if he doesn't like it when it's? I mean, it might be old hat by the time Zachary is in school. You're like, it doesn't matter. That's his problem.
That's too bad. That's unfortunate. Because although if he wanted to, he'd probably pick Minions. If he had anything to pick, he would pick Minions.
So at what point did you switch from having a lunch box that had Ninja Turtles or He-Man on it to a brown paper bag? At what stage did you decide that you were too mature for a children's lunchbox?
Maybe I'm thinking either 5th or 6th grade.
Fifth.
And it wasn't a brown paper bag. It wasn't brown paper bag, but it was like the vinyl material.
Oh,
kind of like lunch baggy.
Did the other kids in your class have that?
I think they started doing that also around the same time.
Because the kids in my class were all brown paper bags. So if it had been enforced for me to take that, I definitely would have been like, no. Mm-hmm. I need to conform to my classmates and have a brown paper bag. I can't be showing up with my highfalutin vinyl carryall.
Yeah, well, it would be the vinyl carryall and then my carton of Boku.
Because of
needed to come in on like a forklift.
What was it? Not Jerry Lewis.
Richard Lewis.
Richard Lewis, thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's my undeniable right as a man of the 90s to quench my thirst in my own way. I want a Boku.
Okay, so what's What is this controversy
speaking
with
of baseball,
the Orioles?
All right, so the Orioles have their play-by-play announcer, Kevin Brown, and they decided to go ahead and suspend him for a very interesting, innocuous reason. They believe that his commentary on the team itself was a little too hurtful, a little too negative, not very, you're basically your play-by-play guy is supposed to be you got your straight man. It's kind of like Abbott and Costello. You have the straight man, then your comedic side guy as the color commentary guy. Kevin Brown himself is the play-by-play guy, so he's the very, straightforward, starchy kind of guy. Well, basically what ended up happening is that there was a graphic several weeks ago. I don't know how long ago, probably like a week or two ago. They put up a graphic showing about the win-loss records for past several seasons for the Orioles compared to how things are going right now, which I believe they're in first place in the AL East or something like that. So it's a big turnaround. It's not something that we haven't seen before. We see this quite frequently, unless of course you're like the Pirates and you just crap the bed, or Arizona. Well, he kind of wouldn't say, in a sense, we're kind of saying like, we're doing really good here, but past several seasons, we were like really, really bad. We're like, really bottom of the barrel garbage, whatever terms of words. And I guess upper management didn't kind of care for this because it's like, yes, we realize we are the Baltimore Orioles, as MJ would attest to, and we've been terrible, but you don't need to kind of dogpile and stuff, depending upon how intense it was. Well, they ended up going ahead and suspending the guy, but he is going to be able now, to go ahead and come back after a while. And upon hearing that he got suspended, a lot of people in the sports media, the fan base, probably some players also were kind of saying that, he's just telling you the truth. I mean, that's kind of what you want a, your play-by-play guy to do, is like kind of tells you, the fact of the matter. And we're all well aware of that. Upper management is too, but it's kind of like something like you don't want to hear it from happening. So
yeah, but
that was kind of the controversial part of it.
See, that it's weird to me because I always was frustrated with. I've always found that the Chicago announcers, whether it was Len Casper or now Boogs. Thank you. Can remember. Can remember. I don't remember his real name.
I don't think he has one.
JD and Len or JD and Boogs. I always liked that they were pretty respectful of the other team and the other players, and always tried, in my estimation, to be fairly neutral on things, and being like calling, like on replay, being like, oh yeah, I got out, and you want, it's like, it's a play at the plate, and your guy's out. Like, well, damn. They've always been pretty but in addition to that is like the announcers not being delusional about the home team, about your team, and being and actually being like, self-aware enough to say like, oof, yeah, Cubs have been struggling against the Reds for years, and here's the past like 3-year records, and we've had a losing record every time, and hopefully.
This is what the ERA is and stuff. Yeah, and saying like, this is something we'll have to most likely address in the offseason.
I would want them to spin it and be like, hopefully this year can be an improvement or whatever. But if they didn't, I would not be like, oh my God, how awful of them to call out reality. Like, ignoring reality is a big problem that people need to stop doing. So ownership took issue with the comment. Okay, so what's the clip? Let's see what this is all about. Hold on. Unmute and start over.
Brandon Hyde has felt like this has been maybe the toughest ballpark to play in, but the Orioles have a chance to do something special today. They've already clinched at least a split in the series, winning 2 of the first 3, and they could pick up a series win behind Tyler Wells today. It's been a minute. The Orioles split a 2-gamer with the Rays in June. They had lost their last 15 series here at Tropicana Field. You have to go back to when our now colleague Brad Brock picked up the win in the series finale June 25th, 2017, the last time the Orioles won a series here at St. Pete. Already got 3-2 at the Trop this year after winning 3 of 18 the previous 3 years combined. It is a stark difference, Ben, and it is not a bad Rays team. It's not like all of a sudden the Rays became slouches in the American League East. They've led this division every day, but now 2, and the Orioles once again are back alone in first place.
What's the problem with that? There was nothing wrong.
It's
okay.
like,
that is way less offensive than I thought. I thought he was going to be like the White Sox caller.
We're 11 games under 500. The Bears needed 6 months to get 11 games under 500. We needed 3 weeks.
He was being complimentary to that the Orioles are having a great season and they could pull off something they haven't done for a long time.
Yeah, and he's basically just kind of reiterating what was on that graphic that was put on the screen. So it's like, is it because you don't like the way he read it, or are you more upset that the graphic is showing the truth and somebody is pointing this out and stuff? So it was just kind of a weird thing. It was just, and pretty much everybody just kind of, got after the management there for Baltimore, and it was just like, oh yeah, I'm not going to pay for this. Sorry.
I can't. Well, no, I was just looking at we can't read the article, but there's only one way for Kevin Brown to answer the Orioles' senseless suspension. He needs to leave. For the sake of for the sake of our friend MJ, who I assume enjoys Kevin Brown's commentary because he seems pretty competent from that one clip I've seen of him. He actually reminds me of Len Casper. I think that I hope that they find a path to working out their differences and can go into a bright future together of understanding and respect. I'm being very
sacks of money.
I'm being very political this episode. I'm being very riding that line, trying to make everybody happy because
you're more Switzerland than Switzerland. You're Liechtenstein.
Speaking of being grossly incompetent, Alex.
Hi.
Not you. It's I saw an article go by on everyone's favorite gaming rag, Polygon.
I've opened the Ark. Oh, Polygon. All right. Speaking of,
okay, but the thing is, here's the issue.
We have Final Fantasy VII because no other game exists.
You're jumping to a conclusion that is incorrect. You think that Okay, so the headline is that the JRPG label has been othering. Okay, complaining that JRPG is a racist genre title, right? You're thinking because it's Polygon that Polygon's the one who decided this. Do you know who decided this? The Japanese. I'm doing my Lewis Black impression. It was the Japanese all along. So really quick, the JRPG label has always been othering. The term's historical baggage lives on today. And this also is just Final Fantasy's fault.
You know what's funny, speaking of Final Fantasy? Did you know that they've released a new Final Fantasy and nobody's discussing that?
Is it Final Fantasy 17?
No, 16.
Oh.
They just released it.
What's the one that everybody's playing still then? 15?
7.
No, shut up, Alex.
Well, I mean, no, they're all playing. True also,
no, it's not true. The online one.
Oh, 11.
No.
14?
No, 15. Why would you just won't accept it being 15?
Well, you just said an online one.
Isn't this the one that's online?
No. This is the one that Conan was playing, and he complained about running out of gas with the car.
I thought that was the one that was online. I don't know.
There might
All I
be
know is
some
it's not
online
Final
portion
Fantasy
to it.
VII, and it's not the one. Alex, you completely derailed the fucking conversation.
Sorry,
Jesus
play Chrono
Christ.
Trigger, kids.
JRPG label has always been othering. The term's historical baggage lives on today. In February, Final Fantasy XVI producer Naoki Yoshida sat down in an interview with YouTuber SkillUp. I never heard of them. As part of a tour to promote the next installment in the Final Fantasy series. I want to see, hold on a second, Alex. I'm going to do something to help you. Just the one? Yep. All right. There we go.
Thank you.
I've helped you. Naoki Yoshida sat down in an interview with YouTuber SkillUp as part of a tour to promote the next installment of the Final Fantasy series. During the interview, Yoshida expressed his distaste for a term that has effectively become its own subgenre of video game, though not by choice. For us Japanese developers, the first time we heard it, it was like a discriminatory term, as though we were being made fun of for creating these games. And so for some developers, the term can be something that will maybe trigger bad feelings because of what it was in the past, he said. He said that the first time both he and his contemporaries heard the term, they felt as though it was discriminatory, and that there was a long period of time when it was being used negatively against Japanese-developed games. The JRPG. Yeah, I don't know what he's talking about.
If he's saying that there's a distinction between Western RPGs and Japanese-made RPGs, which are just referred to as JRPGs, yeah, there is a distinct difference between the two. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, we could just call them RPGs. It would be like, okay, there's Western cinema, and then there's like, Asian cinema, which then gets subdivided to like, Hong Kong, Chinese, Bollywood, Korean, Japanese. We can just call it all cinema. That's true. Or a better example is cartoons. You have Western animation, then you have anime. It's like if you find anime to be discriminatory, then we'll just call it cartoons.
I don't remember this at all. So they're talking about like the late 90s and early 2000s. In general, around this time is when general vitriol for Japanese RPGs, along with any Japanese-made game, began to appear. As early as the 90s, some publications, such as the official UK PlayStation magazine, tried to combat early stereotype-driven perceptions of a Japanese. This sounds like a bunch of bullshit to me.
It is a bunch of bullshit because
I remember.
Go ahead.
I remember JRPG being a thing definitely in the mid-90s when I was reading like Game Fan magazine. Mm-hmm. And it was more when it's when the infatuation with Japanese RPGs. Content began. So what year was Final Fantasy VII released?
97?
I think you're right.
Because I'm just trying to, because it definitely sold.
97. I remember being in the mall, seeing the giant cardboard cutout of Cloud at like KB Toys or at whatever, Babbage's. And by 97, 98, everyone knew what anime was becoming very popular. JRPGs, if you didn't know what a JRPG was before Final Fantasy VII came out, you knew what it was after Final Fantasy VII came out. So, like, what are they talking about?
So back then, I feel like RPGs, when you talked about RPGs in the terms of, in terms of video, in the video game industry, separate from like your pen and pencil or paper and pencil kind of like Dungeons and Dragons type of stuff, which also were called fully role-playing games. I feel like RPGs pretty much just refer to anything and everything that was coming out of Japan without any type of distinction for any Western RPGs, which I can't honestly think of any off the top of my head. Maybe you could argue that some of those like point and click PC adventure games kind of were RPG like in some elements, but for the most part, I don't think that this, like, calling a JRPG wasn't something until further down the road when Western developers, maybe like Blizzard with, like, you know, the old Dungeons and Dragons like Baldur's Gate, you know, for example, started making their own homegrown type of RPGs, which were, I would say, a bit different in the mechanics and the overall flow of the gameplay compared to the Japanese ones. But not something, I don't think anybody referred to Final Fantasy 17 or Final Fantasy 7 back in 97 as JRPG.
This is okay, so I can give this guy a pass for whatever kind of cultural miscommunication occurs when you're using terminology or whatever with this developer from Japan, whatever. But the rest of this article from Polygon is as bad as I would have expected it to be.
And it's also written by Kazuma Hashimoto.
I'm not going to get into it. But like, there's things in here. Only within the last 5 years or so have attitudes concerning Japanese games fundamentally shifted back into the positive.
Are you what?
What are you talking about? There have been weebs since the 90s, and maybe it's because I was one of them that it never wasn't popular. You were looking at the back of Game Fan magazine was where to buy imports of Chrono Trigger and all of the stuff that was, just because it's niche doesn't mean it's racist.
Not even the 90s. About? We can go back into the 80s where people were getting bootleg VHS.
Robotech
and stuff.
We were doing that in the 90s too.
I know, but still, I mean, this is like, what, last 5 years since, like, what, 2018, 2019 is like, what pipe dream does this person live in with
this is very revisionist.
It's very Polygon. I knew I spelled something fishy. It's like when I went and saw episode 7, I'm like,
So this whole thing about come 2005, with the release of the Xbox 360, the market had all but shifted away from RPGs in general, despite Microsoft's attempt to court Japanese player base within Japan with whatever that was.
Yeah, it wasn't going to work.
Even when the original Xbox came out, here was the divide. Do you like first-person shooters? Buy an Xbox. Buy an Xbox 360. Halo, Call of Duty. It is the best controller ever made for a console first-person shooter. That it continues to be the standard for controllers for first-person shooters. There it is. Good.
Japanese version too.
Do you like playing JRPGs?
Yeah.
Buy a PlayStation. Remind me again what was more popular, the PlayStation 3 or the 360?
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about? Why do you need to go to this length to, like, create controversy?
Yeah.
It just lazy and insulting to the people who enjoyed these things. Just because it wasn't entirely mainstream doesn't mean there wasn't doesn't mean that there was any, like, concerted effort against that stuff.
Yeah. What's funny about this is that really up until, not counting Atari or anything, but up until Microsoft came into the fold, there was nothing but Japanese produced consoles, Sega and Nintendo, and then I guess you had like 3DO or some other, but really it was Nintendo and Sega, and really for those you bought those consoles primarily for the specific games that were available. When you got around to like PS3 and 360, since so many things became multi-platform, there was really no difference apart from maybe these had better the selection of a certain genre of game was better. Like you said, shooters, you go 360. If you want the more of the exclusive Japanese titles, then you get the PlayStation. And of course it was going to sell better in Japan because Japan tends to buy Japanese products far more so. Even still to this day with the Microsoft, Xbox has now been for at least a quarter of a century, the actual Xbox, brand from Microsoft. It still really doesn't do that great in Japan, which I think currently even PlayStation and maybe Nintendo aren't seeing the types of sales like they did because they've moved more towards utilizing their smartphones for entertainment. And I think there's been an uptick in maybe PC usage too.
I do appreciate that the Japanese love Windows. The Japanese looked at Mac OS and Windows and Linux and were like, Windows it is. Windows. They do like their iPhones. Mm-hmm. But predominantly, it was funny watching the making of the Last Evangelion film, and all of their stuff is running on PCs. It's really interesting.
Were they VIOS?
With what?
VIOS?
No.
No.
VIOS aren't a thing anymore, Alex.
I thought they okay, fine.
This is a reply from an actual Asian American who's strongly disagrees with the notion that JRPG should be discarded or even considered problematic. The argument in this article is that Japanese culture may be cool now, but what if it becomes uncool again someday? Absolutely bizarre. We should stop calling things Japanese in case people in the future stop liking Japanese culture. My point here is stop empowering bigots by allowing bigotry to drive our culture. Also, stop allowing idiots to drive our culture. Mm-hmm. Stop allowing weak-minded idiots to drive our culture because they got a little offended by something somebody said. Okay, anyway. Moving on. Speaking of disastrous video games, Baldur's Gate 3 came out.
Yes, it's the current hot thing.
Baldur's Gate, not a disaster.
No, doing quite well.
People calling it one of the best modern games, and it got one of the highest scores ever in PC Gamer. It got a 97, which is the first time in 30 years that PC Gamer UK gave anything that score. And there's only 5 games that have gotten better scores in PC Gamer US, which were Half-Life 2 and Half-Life 1 were 2 of those games. That's got to be it's sort of like when you do the AFI's top 10 films, it's like 3 of them are Stanley Kubrick films.
Yeah. 2001.
2001, Doctor Strangelove, and I think maybe A Clockwork Orange or Barry Lyndon usually show up on those lists.
Barry Lyndon's that high up, okay.
I mean, it's a great film. Anyway,
I still need to sit down and watch that film.
If you moved to Chicago and became my life partner, we would go to the Music Box every weekend and experience fine cinema on 35 millimeter. But instead, you chose to have a wife and children. Selfishly, she doesn't watch good movies. No, I know she doesn't. Sorry, Erica.
I told her that when you come by next time, all 3 of us are going to sit down and we're going to watch Gummo.
Okay.
And then we're going to watch Kamikaze Girls.
Gummo will end your marriage, so then I get my friend
Guess
back.
Who's moving in, big guy? And he's bringing the kids with him.
Oh God!
They're small. They'll fit in your closet.
I'll put up. That walk-in closet.
Yeah,
that would be perfect for the 2 of them.
No, but that's where you keep that's where you keep Fireball Island, so they'll be able to keep themselves occupied when we go to the Music Box. See, I've planned things for years.
Speaking of terrible video games, Alex, Baldur's Gate 3. Baldur's Gate 3 came out. Not a terrible game. Got one of the best reviews ever. But it seems to have ruffled some feathers. I don't know if you've heard anything about this.
I've heard some things. I don't know if they're safe for discussion on YouTube.
Well,
but
I don't know that it's the topic you're thinking about. Although we could say,
okay,
it's funny to me because our infamous Liz was complaining. It was one of the most explicit sentences Liz has ever said in front of me.
Oh.
Because she's usually, pretty, not quiet, but like conservative in the words she uses. And she was telling me about the genitalia that are available.
Quite a conservative term for those things.
That's my term. She was telling me about the genitalia in Baldur's Gate, and I was like, "Wow, I didn't realize that it was so. There was like so many options." And she was like, "Yeah, I was playing. She was playing with two guys, and she's like, "Why are there Why are there 4 penises and only 2 vulvas?" And I was like, "Whoa, vulva is a pretty you don't
medical.
Hear it. You don't hear that very. Usually people just say vagina. And so I was kind of like, whoa, that's a little explicit for you, Liz. I'm kind of uncomfortable. I'm going to go to HR and have this remedied. Although it is true, there are like,
you know what? When you go and edit the episode, I want you to put the part where like Oprah says like bye bye JJ during that part when you hit the vagina. Personal request.
Oh, now I'm getting edit requests from you.
But my JJ is painting.
So, but that's not what got Baldur's Gate into trouble. Even if anything, I'm impressed that Baldur's Gate genitalia customization trumped Cyberpunk. I thought that
Cyberpunk was a little lacking, if you ask me.
I thought that inconsequential nudity options in your character customizer had peaked with Cyberpunk, but apparently.
Well, that was the funniest point there. They're like, oh, you get to choose what it is, but you never get to be in third person.
Right.
And there's no parts where you get to do anything with it.
Well, I kept trying to take a shower, and it doesn't show you anything anyway.
Even when you look in the mirror, you're just like, well, I can't.
I was trying to admire.
Step stool where
I was trying to admire this, and you've made it difficult. Anyway, Alex. So there was an article that came out. There was a video that IGN published. And I'll play a snippet of it right now.
AAA game developers want you to know that this is rockstar level nonsense for scope, that it's foolhardy to set expectations higher, and Baldur's Gate 3 should not be used as a raised standard to RPGs going forward. Why was the first response to defend the current state of AAA gaming as opposed to saying, hey, maybe we can learn a thing or two from Baldur's Gate 3 and make our game better for our customers?
Baldur's Gate 3 came out. Everyone loved it. Everyone was sort of like, this is great. It works on day one.
Wow.
It's
That's
polished. Everyone can play it. It's a good game that works on day one. This is amazing. Game developers around the world took that as a direct attack and said, you can't expect everyone to hit this mark. Baldur's Gate 3 should not be considered the new standard because it's too good.
Honey.
And so us AAA game developers cannot be held to the same standard as Baldur's Gate 3. And to their credit, IGN is the group that really, like, we got 2 million views from IGN, really was like hammering it home and being like, this is unacceptable. Your customers deserve more. You guys need to be better. You guys need to figure this out. And blaming your customers because a competitor did a really good game and being like, your standards are too high now is completely unacceptable. So,
wow.
Singular game to set expectations for everyone developing titles in a genre isn't useful and is instead foolhardy. Now, some of these people were talking about indie developers, but nobody cares about that. Nobody holds indie developers at the same thing. It's the people who are complaining about how the AAA pipeline is so plugged up and convoluted that they don't have the same kind of development system that the developers of Baldur's Gate 3 could have.
Because Baldur's Gate 3, would you say that was made by like a I don't know, like a mid-market developer, like a AA?
I think that's fair. They're not tiny.
Yeah,
and they definitely had a lot of money.
But,
yeah,
but they're not like super huge.
No.
But I would say that like those tend to be the games that are better polished because, for various types of reasons they need to be. with the indie ones, it's a small team of maybe a handful of people working on something, and they're hoping that they can get something out of it. The AAA's don't care because they've got investor money, and a day one 30 gig patch is just run the it's just standard operating at this point.
Right.
It's kind of funny because granted how so many games now are just rushed out the door because they have to hit the certain quota by a certain quarter because of investors and stuff. When we were kids and we were playing, Zelda or Super Mario Brothers 3, there was actual quality control. And when your Nintendo seal of quality or whatever that gold sticker was, you popped in the cartridge, you knew it was going to work. Otherwise, there was no option of getting a patch to fix it and stuff. You hoped it's just a glitch, or maybe it's a bad cartridge and you trade it in for something else.
Well, and it's funny because this video specifically mentions like the new Zelda game as being something that people enjoyed and is popular and is and was it's sort of like Nintendo can do it. Nintendo's fairly consistent with pumping out like they have strict like quality control, and they're doing everything they can to make a great game every single time. Sometimes it's better than others, but usually when's the last time Nintendo did like an atrocious game?
Yeah.
It just doesn't.
There was some Pokemon game that came out like
was it by Nintendo though?
I think it was by Game Freak.
Yeah,
but I think that's the only thing people can associate it because Nintendo is so closely related. Pokemon's so closely related with Nintendo, but I mean,
Nintendo didn't develop the Pokemon Go, so Pokemon's its own thing. It's not like they own it.
Right. They just kind of publish it. I'm thinking, but yeah, Nintendo has been making basically longer than you and I have been alive, like games and stuff like that. That's 40 plus years, and their track record speaks for themselves.
Right. So yeah, the summary kind of on this video gives where this is going. Baldur's Gate 3 is widely celebrated by fans and developers alike. Some are panicking that this could set new expectations from fans. Good. This opinion from Destin Legari. Destin Legari. We explore why fans feel this way and why they're celebrating games like Baldur's Gate 3 and Elden Ring. The Baldur's Gate 3 reaction has stirred up a bit of controversy, with some worry that Baldur's Gate 3 gameplay will cause a raised standard from fans.
So in this case, the industry believes that the customer is wrong for wanting this.
Laren Studios has created something that others are worried will be compared to their games. Baldur's Gate 3 developer reaction wasn't all bad, with some pointing out that it should be used to get them to look closer at their practices, but many also defend the status quo. Yeah, that's a problem.
It's something that and you've probably heard this too, where the NFL has basically only allowed EA Sports to make the official NFL Madden football game ever since they basically swiped it away from 2K Sports, 2K Games, the developer, back in like the 2000s with the Dreamcast. So the only people who can officially make it is EA. And we've seen, as not just years, but at this point the decades have gone on, that series made by EA has gotten consecutively worse, more bland, far more run-of-the-mill, and in many cases people are just saying it's a straight up just port of the previous year's information with updated rosters, and it's done the laziest thing, and there's no ingenuity with that and such like that. And people have gotten really tired of this, and they've kind of we've gotten away from it. I don't want to play it anymore. Or there's people who just lap it up because I need to get the new fix and stuff. The best thing, something like that, would be that the NFL needs to take the license away from them and allow somebody else a hand at it. Or in many cases, like how it was with the NBA, where EA had a license for the NBA and 2K Sports also was able to have a license for the NBA, and their basketball game was so good. I believe, I can't remember what year it was, but EA chose to cancel their season, their year's version of the NBA game, because they're like, we saw what 2K did. Ours was not on par with in any way, shape, or form. We decided to go ahead and kill it that year. And I don't know if they've come back since, but I haven't heard anything about it. And eventually 2K's basketball will start hitting the same thing like Madden is. This is something with, the industry themselves, like people defending it or saying like, oh, well, it's, things are the status quo. What is your justification for this and stuff? Is it because you don't want to put in the effort to, one, make sure your game is functional on day one, that you don't have to release some, patch, which is already, people already they already joke about it. It's like, oh, day one patch, haha. Two, is it because you are beholden to your investors and your higher ups are telling you, you need to put this out by this date, otherwise we're going to have a bad stock performance in a financial report and stuff? Or three, it's like you just really don't want to spend money to pay people to be able to do this, and you're just like, the unwashed masses will just buy whatever we put out there. And I think it's for the industry itself, because there's so much stuff that's out there right now, it's kind of like an oversaturation in terms of games, and the ones that do stand out, such as in this case Baldur's Gate, which, yes, it's got the pedigree of the previous games and people waited a long time for this, but also it's like the developer knew that, hey, we want to do the third game in the series, we want to have it really good quality, let's do everything we can to make it work, because really in this industry, we're not a studio that can be able to just throw out a whole bunch of stuff to make up for a bad mistake. We have a one-shot type of ordeal, and I think that's commendable. I think it should be held, the industry needs to be held to a higher standard, or quite frankly, it needs to suffer a crash like it has before, on I think at least maybe two occasions previously, just to kind of get its rear in gear in terms of putting out better quality.
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely are backing ourselves. Well, I'm not really part of it, but that industry is backing itself into the ET era of you're pumping out so much garbage, that eventually it is not going to be sustainable. And if anything, it'll turn into like PC games, and indie developers are what continues to keep Steam going, if it comes to that. Yeah. But there is a frustration boiling over with microtransactions and loot crates and all that stuff. Like the frustration is definitely starting to hit critical mass. And Baldur's Gate, if Baldur's Gate 3 can be the title that really is, we're not going to take it anymore. Here's a reminder of what gaming used to be like. But more importantly, Alex and I actually watched a feature film called Goodbye Don Glees.
Yep.
This anime is, I would say, effectively the 2022-2023 anime version of Stand By Me.
Yeah.
It's a camping trip adventure where they're
out in the woods, wild,
trying to find something in the woods, having to deal with nature, whether it's bears or leeches. Emotional male bonding moments. There's a lot more of a fantastical element to Goodbye Don Glees than there is in Stand By Me, which is very grounded. It's I don't know what Atsuko Ishizuka has done in the past, but well, I don't know, Alex. What did you? It's a summer adventure, male bonding, Stand By Me-esque anime with a little bit of fantasy stuff sprinkled on top. Alex, what did you think of Goodbye Don Glees?
I found it to be ho-hum, to be honest. I feel like it's a film that really you could just watch it and be done with it. It doesn't really, to me, it doesn't feel like it requires a second viewing to maybe get a different opinion of it. It's pretty cut and dry forward, like you said. It's kind of like an anime version of Stand By Me. It's three boys. They go out on a kind of like a journey. Not really a journey. It's more like they're just trying to find something that can kind of fix a situation that they got themselves into, not of their, based upon being perceived by others to have done something quite egregious, and finding a little bit, just like the standard types of coming of age, finding yourself thing, where all three of them have their own things that they need to come to grips with and address and try to overcome, hopefully by the end of this little journey. And that's basically about it. I mean, I don't want to go too much into detail. I mean, we could talk about why they're doing this stuff if you want me to.
Well, I mean, it's they think that they're going to be blamed for starting a forest fire. Basically, it's not like a spoiler. I don't think.
Yeah. And the thing that can basically that can basically prove their innocence happens to be camera footage off of a drone that they were flying during, like a fireworks festival.
I do think I do like how. Well, okay. So my big thing about this film is that it's a little too contrived and a little too overwrought. Like there are moments in it where it's just too emotional and not in a. It's like too melodramatic.
It's not a natural type of.
The behavior of the characters is just kind of heightened. It's like turned up to 12. It's not. It's and even in terms of anime's general melodrama, it's heightened to an extreme degree in this. So like the entire situation about the forest fire is kind of, well, but why do they think that there's any actual threat to them? Like it's not like the police are talking to their parents about something. Yeah. All it comes down to is a message board, and they feel like they're being like targeted, but they're too young to take it, or they're too old to take it this seriously. They're like 16 years old.
Yeah.
So like,
and like you said, the cops don't even follow through or even know about this message board. So.
There's no situation at the end of the film or anywhere where there's any actual authority that's investigating them for what happened.
They run into the police on their quest to find this drone, but it's only because the police just happen to be in the area trying to find signs of,
what happened,
arson and stuff. Yeah,
no, and they never even talk to them.
No, they just see them and they're like, oh, it's the cops, and they're like running to the bushes or whatever they do.
So there's that stuff that kind of bothered me and took me out of it. Then there's this kind of silly anime moments, like where they start singing "Twinkle Twinkle Little Star," little musical. Well, not that. That little moment didn't bother me. What bothered me was when it turns into a music video.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
The moment of them being like, hey, do you remember when we were little kids and we used to learn this English song and they started singing it? That didn't bother me. When it turned into the rock version of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star and they're doing like a little music video, then I'm like, 14-year-old, 15, 16-year-old boys do not do this. This is not what teenage boys do.
Maybe in Japan, but yeah.
So it was just kind of, it just seemed like a weird facsimile of what someone would want to be a cute moment in a movie about teenage boys camping together. So that stuff was bothersome. Outside of that, though, I actually was kind of emotionally invested. This falls into this category of anime that has become popular over the last 10 years of tearjerker anime for little girls that men like.
So our version of bronyism.
Well, it's like for some reason the anime Your Name got very popular among people otherwise sane adult men, and I thought it was baffling because I hated that film. Well, maybe hate is a strong term. I did not enjoy that movie. I strongly disliked that movie. And it was just sort of like, this movie is for teenage girls. Like, this is a romance film for teenage girls who like anime. And a bunch of 30-year-old men are really into this. And maybe there's some kind of weird social thing, like cultural thing happening that I'm not aware of, but this is a weird thing. So there's that movie. But then I saw a film called The Shape of Voice, which is a very wonderful film about a deaf girl. It's like sort of the thing is, it's not really a romance film. It's sort of just a drama with a deaf girl who was abused in school by this boy, and he's trying to make amends for it. Fantastic film, really good, but also
I've heard about it. Yeah.
Very heart-rending, tearjerker film. Like, that's just by the nature of what the film is. This to me falls into that plane of movies, and then there's a few others that have come out recently. The guy who did Digimon just had a film come out that I'm sure falls into the same trajectory. But there is a strong vein of tragedy and sadness at the core of this film. But I appreciated it in a way because one thing I've always liked about anime is that anime has never shied away from like showing young men that it's okay to cry. Like, there's always been this sort of thing where it's like when Shinji Ikari is crying, you're not like, well, you're not supposed to be. Look at this pathetic loser. Yeah. When the guy is crying in Goodbye Don Glees because he doesn't want to become a doctor and he's pressured and
forced into by his parents, yeah.
Like, and he's like, I don't want my friends to see me like this. It's not played for laughs. It's not played to be pathetic. It's just like played to be very vulnerable. And I appreciate a film that has three young teenage dudes being honest with each other. I think is a nice message for young men. So I was okay with that stuff. And then the fantastical stuff with the phone booth, I found it to be poetic. It was fine. It's not meant to be totally,
surreal type of thing.
Well, it's not meant to be believable. It is meant to have this kind of surreal, magical element to it, and I just accepted it for what it was. But it doesn't change the fact that it is very contrived. It is very over the top with the emotional stuff. And there are moments where I'm like, I would get choked up during one scene and then immediately be like fed up with it and be like, oh, come on, seriously? And then I just, you know what I mean? So it was like a roller coaster. Anything else you wanted to add about this anime, Alex?
Not really.
You just found it kind of meh.
I found it kind of meh. Each of them had to get something. They all had to try to find their, I don't know, goal or something that they were striving and trying to go to. Like I guess you would call it like the main character. What was his damn name again? Roma, yeah. Roma. Toto had the doctor thing. Roma had the girl, and then Drop has his own
story.
Yeah. His own story, which I kept on thinking he was a girl most of the time because the way his eyelashes were and stuff like that. But
it was clearly not a girl. That's okay.
I know, but I'm just saying. But yeah, like Toto basically being like, oh, my goal that I need to do or the thing I have to get over is actually like getting into contact with this girl that I like and blah blah blah. Like, and I mean, it's standard par for the course with these types of like, coming of age. I don't even know if we call them coming of age, but it's more just like self-discovery type of films and such. And it's only like an hour and a half long film, so it's not like you're gonna, take forever to get to the point and stuff like that. So it's just,
Alex has no soul. How many pots of
2.
gold? Okay, I give it 3. I even like I was even the silliness of the ending I was kind of taken aback by, as in I did not see that coming of what was going about the nature of the relationships. And as unbelievable and stupid as it is, I was like, okay, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt for this one. Alex said, I'm cynical and hate it, but that's fine.
It's not K-On!
It's not.
It's not on the K-On! Gold standard.
No, that's a pretty high. I mean, that's speaking of Kyoto, Kyo Anime is a very, very, very different level of.
I mean, it's almost like it's right up there with like Vampire Hunter.
Vampire Hunter D. No, it's one of my favorite memes is the K-On! What I expected, what I got. I don't know if that's something that you can actually find on the internet. No, that was just kind of a 4chan thing. But it's like the cat, happy cat, being like, what I expected, what I got. And it's like depressed, crying cat. So. All right, so goodbye, Don Glees. I found it to be a flawed but ultimately emotional, mildly entertaining, worth an hour and a half, but it's don't go in expecting a masterpiece like
K-On!
Alex just thought it was kind of an uneventful nothing.
I kept on hovering my mouse pointer over like the time, like the play bar, being like, how much more time do I have for this movie? That's all I can. I didn't skip anything, but I was kind of like.
He didn't skip anything, but Alex was also talking to me and watching 4chan while he had it on the other screen.
Yeah, I was just like, okay. I mean, probably the first half hour of the movie I was more invested in, and then the rest of it I was just like,
yeah, because Alex literally was like, hey, do you want to hang out online? I got on Skype with him, and he's like, I'm halfway through Don Glees. Also, check out this cooking thread. Also, how was your day? This is how Alex reviews anime, just so everyone knows. Anyhow,
then you put on K-On! I'm just like, shut up, everybody, shut up.
You're like, I gotta go.
Some cash, take the boys out. Leave me alone. Close the drapes.
Shut up, Ritsu's talking. Ritsu's talking. Everybody, shut up. I think about that does it this week. I think I've had it just about enough.
With this movie.
With this episode.
Oh, okay.
I mean, what else do you want me to say?
I don't know. I think that's about it.
So when you say it, it's fine. But when I say it, you make a sad face.
I'm sorry. I'm looking at something unfortunate.
Yeah, okay. So there we go. Hey, everybody. Thanks for coming to Culture Doom. Until next week, watching you from Alex.
Bye, everybody.
Wrap up the show for real, dummy.
All right, sorry. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming and tuning in to our fun-filled episode. This was 420, correct?
Yes, this is episode 420. No, shut up. We made it.
All right.
Oh my god, we made it to the very end of the show before the most obvious fucking joke had to be made. God damn it.
All right, fine. You can cut that part up. Anyways. Thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in and listening to us this week and watching us. If you have any emails, please send it to contact@culturedoom.com or put some comments there.
Nobody listens to this show, Alex.
Like and subscribe.
I'm pretty sure that those 8 views this week, one of them is from me and 3 of them are from you. And
how do I watch it 3 times? I thought if it's just one...
No.
Even at the same account?
Yes.
Okay.
Alex is like, oh shit, I'm actually 20 views. No, those views.
Pump those numbers up.
No.
I got each of the boys a tablet and a smartphone, so I can just... Anyways, thank you for listening to us. We appreciate it, and we love you very greatly. On behalf of Brendan, is on this side of me, in his booth. I'm in my booth. Next time, until next time, watching you from Culture Dude.